Take a trip with me beyond the veil, where true crime and the supernatural intertwine. This is Bloodlines and Secrets. Welcome to another episode of Bloodlines and Secrets. I'm your host, Danielle, also known as BaldieLocsss. And today I'm going to be talking about out-of-body experiences. And this is one of many I've had throughout my lifetime. But it all started when I was taking my dog Xander for a walk. I had two dogs, Xander and Magnum. Xander was a German Shepherd mix. Magnum was a full-blood German Shepherd. So it was Magnum's night for a walk, but he had been limping. So I took Xander instead. So it was October of 2009, and it was just a neighborhood walk. But I was feeling just really good about life because I had just filmed my first, or been cast in a short film, my first role in film ever. And it was in the editing process at the time, and I had just really grasped the concept of law of attraction. So on this walk, I was like visualizing what I wanted my life to look like and visualizing things that I had never considered prior to doing any kind of on-screen acting work. So Xander and I are just walking along, and it was early evening. It wasn't dark yet. So when I realized, we should get home, so I'm in our neighborhood and I'm on the side street leading to our block. And I turn on the block, and I had to break up a dog fight between Xander and this husky that was on the porch. And they didn't, this dog was loose. It wasn't tied down or anything like that. So I saw that dog on the porch and I was like, I'm not breaking up another dog fight. So, and it was like dusk at this point, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll just walk around the block and then, approach the house from the other side. So, we're walking leisurely, still the neighborhood. I didn't feel in danger or anything like that. So we make it around the third block, right? So I don't have headphones in or anything like that, nothing to distract me. So I hear gravel. And so I turn around because I thought there was a car behind us. I turn around, no car. And I was like, okay, keep walking, walking. I hear the sound of gravel again. But this time when I turned around, there was a van. It was a hunter green van, conversion van. You could not hear the motor running or anything like that. But the van was so close. I would say it was about 5 feet directly behind us. So I hurried up and got into the person's yard. There was a house we were walking on the side of the road. So I hurried up and pulled Xander over to that way. And so I started walking. And then I realized that this van is keeping pace with us. And I was like, you got to be shitting me. You got to be shitting me. So I'm like, okay, Danielle, keep your cool. So then we pick up the pace. And the van picks up the pace, still keeping pace with us. And at that very moment, I got a snapshot into my mind. A woman had gone missing a year prior, and her son had been on the news pleading with people. They lived in a trailer park, and the son, I think, was like early 20s. And in my mind, I just saw a missing poster with her face on it. And I'm like, this is how shit like that goes down. When people get snatched and they're like, well, they were walking their dog or they were doing this. And the woman had gone to get cigarettes. That's where she was going to get cigarettes, was never seen or heard from again. So then I start running. I'm no track star, but me and this dog are running in that van, keeping pace with us. So I passed my block. I didn't want to turn down my block because I didn't want them to see where I lived. So I'm like, okay, so if I continued to the end of the block, there were some streetlights that were out. So I'm like, I don't want to go where it's dark. So I get to the last house on the block. And that's when I realized that it's vacant. I didn't realize that they had moved out. So we stopped in the yard. I had my phone out and I had already dialed 911. And so we stopped, the van stops. And I'm like, okay, this is how it's going down. And Xander's just sitting there like, you know, oblivious, right? So directly across from this house was an apartment complex. So I'm like, this is it. This is what we got to do. If he gonna hit me, he just gonna have to run me over. So we ran in front of the van to the apartment complex, and I run to the first building. And now these apartment buildings are secure. You can't get in the door. You have to ring the doorbell. So I run up to the first door, or to the security door, and I just start ringing all of the doorbells. Why did this van enter the parking lot of this apartment complex and was just sitting there? So I go to the next one. Ring, 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 ring. I'm ringing all the doorbells. Go to the next one. Ring, 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 ring. And there was one more on that side. And I'm like, I don't know. I won't know what to do once I get to this last door. And it's just sitting there. It's sitting there at the entryway of the parking lot. So as soon as I make it to the stairs to the last security door, a woman, this petite lady with a pinstripe suit and heels, comes out with this big with some luggage. And so I said, can you please, and now at this point I am talking to 911. So I said, can you let me in? I said, that van is following me. And she goes, that van? And I said, yes. So she opens the door for me. This chick goes down the stairs, leaves her suitcase there in these heels, starts taking off towards that van. And I was like, she's fucking crazy. So I'm telling the 911 operator what's going on. And she's like, stay inside with your dog, blah, 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 blah. And so I saw the van back out. So the van backs out, and then she comes back in and she gives me a detailed description of the van. But she said it has no plates in the front, no plates in the back. And the windows were completely tinted. You couldn't see in it. So I'm relaying this to the 911 operator. So she said she was sending a unit out, yada, yada, yada. So the woman comes back in and she's like, do you want some water? And I'm like, yeah. So she goes upstairs, comes back with a bottle of water for me. I'm drinking the water and I stay there until an officer shows up. But the lady in the suit says that the van didn't leave. She said it went to the parking lot behind the building. And I was like, okay. So that terrified me even more because I'm like, these motherfuckers are after me, right? So, and I'm not somebody that gets into like conflicts. I'm not a fighter. You know what I'm saying? I'm not somebody that talks shit. So I was like, this is really weird. So the officer gets there and she's like, does this dog bite? And I'm like, no, the dog that bites is at home, because Magnum was a trained personal protection dog. So she said, my advice to you is to only walk that dog. And so I asked her, I said, have things like this happened around here lately? And she curved my question. She didn't answer me. And she said, where do you live? And I'm like, literally that house right there. You could see my house from where we were at. So she said, I'll follow you, make sure you're home, and I'll sit out here for a little while. And I'm like, okay. So by the time I got home, I was shaking and I couldn't sleep that night. And I couldn't sleep the night after that. I sat up in the window, like cracked, looking to see if I could see that van again. So, a few nights later, I was just scared or tired of being scared. So I laid down and I asked my spirit team, I asked my angels, and I asked my guides, what the hell was that about? Like, is somebody after me? What's going on? I need some guidance. So I laid back, closed my eyes, and just, waited. Because I get messages in different ways. So I sat back, and the next thing you know, I could feel myself like leaving my body, but going straight up. So it's weird because your senses are truly alive. Like you feel, hear, everything. So I leave my body and I go straight up. But at this time, I'm aware of a presence to my left, and it was really warm. It was hot. Not enough to like burn me, but I was just aware that whoever was my escort or whatever was escorting me was right here. So the best way I can explain it is like we shot straight up, and you could hear like whoosh, 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 like this may sound crazy to some of you guys, but like through the stars, like through the atmosphere. So I'm hearing that sound and I'm like, am I really in space? Like it was bizarre. But the next thing you know, we ended up on, I'm going to say it was another planet. That's what it seemed like. Um, so we touched down, and then the presence to the left was gone. So I'm in a neighborhood, right? And at the very end of the sidewalk, there's a woman, this petite lady. So I just started walking to her. So I get to her, and she looked me dead in my eyes and she said, "It is very important that you do not ever walk at night again." And I was like, I know, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it again. But she was like, mm-mm. And she leaned in closer and she grabbed both of my hands in her hands and she says, "You cannot ever walk at night again." And I said, okay. And she was very nurturing and loving and very familiar. And next thing you know, I'm headed back. They're swishing and all that. Next thing you know, I'm back in my bed. And I was like, well, damn, I wasn't expecting that when I was asking for guidance. But that, I don't want to say it terrified me even more. I felt protected, but I know she also let me know that don't feel so too overconfident in that protection. And so I don't walk my dogs at night ever again. But I tell you what, like I said, this is one of many experiences like this that I've had before. Some of them have to do with like current events, or events that are about to happen. But for a long time, I felt like it, my guides, now that I know they're my guides or angels, I was scared of it and thought it was the devil because of the church that I was attending at the time and how the Bible was interpreted. And for a lot of years, I disregarded messages that I was getting, whether it was in dreams or, whispers in my waking life. Like I said, I'll get to that in a different episode as far as my relationship with the church. I no longer attend church. But now I realize that I disregarded a lot of messages that my angels and my guides were trying to tell me. But anywho, that is just another personal story that I wanted to talk to you guys about. There will be more, but this is something else I want to do a deep dive on because I've been having these astral projections since I was a kid, and I could never control it. For most of my life, I could never control it. I didn't know why it would happen. Now I have a better handle on things, but do not discredit your dreams, impressions, or anything that you get in your waking life, in your dream life, or while you're meditating, or at church, or your house of worship, because God speaks to us in ways that will receive it. But do not discredit your intuition, even if the people around you think you're crazy or don't understand it. Do not discredit it because it could mean your life. But thank you for joining me on my second episode of Bloodlines and Secrets. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.